On the 16th of July, 1054, the Patriarch of Constantinople, Michael Cerularius, was excommunicated from the Christian church based in Rome. His excommunication resulted in the split between the European Church into two main branches, the Western Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church. This split is known as the Great Schism or the Schism of 1054. To understand the Great Schism, we need to go back to when the Church was one unified entity. Following the death of Jesus Christ, Christianity spread rapidly in Europe. During the 3rd century AD, the Roman Empire was vast and stretched from Spain to Turkey. The sheer size of the empire was difficult to administer, and in the year 285, the Emperor Diocletian divided the empire into two regions to help assist with the empire's administration. By this time, two emperors were appointed to manage each half of the empire. By the 3rd century AD, Rome had been divided into the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. Christianity was eventually legalized in the Roman Empire in 313 under Emperor Constantine and eventually became the empire's dominant religion. In the 6th century, the Emperor Justinian established 5 dominant patriarchies that would govern the church. These patriarchal cities were in Rome, Constantinople, Antioch, Alexandria, and Jerusalem, and were all managed by a respective bishop. In the year 476, the Western Roman Empire fell to barbarian invasion, disunifying the Western Church. However, Rome was still able to convince the surrounding barbarians that Jesus was the Son of God, with the barbarians adopting Christianity as their religion too. However, the Eastern Roman Empire remained intact and the sole heirs of the Roman Empire. The East believed that the former Western Empire should be reunited, and large amounts of it were recovered under the Emperor Justinian. In the West, people spoke Latin, and in the East, the people spoke Greek. It followed that throughout the Middle Ages, both sides were resistant to learn the sacred text in the other's language, disrupting communications between the two regions. The two sides no longer drew upon the same sources, nor read the same books. Barbarian invasion into the Roman Empire further disunified the Greek East and the Latin West, and their relations were never permanently restored. More invasions from the Balkan Peninsula, which used to help relationships between East and West, now formed a barrier between the Byzantine and Latin worlds. The rise of Islam in the East saw maritime control surrendered by the Roman Empire, making trade and commerce more difficult between the two kingdoms. In 754, the Roman Pope Stephen, now distant from the East, visited the Frankish ruler Pepin. The Franks, a growing kingdom to the north of Italy, was becoming more and more influential over the Pope, so much so that in the year 800, Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne as the Holy Roman Emperor. Pope Leo did this as a reward for Charlemagne's defense of the Pope against barbarian tribes around Italy. Charlemagne sought recognition from the East and was seen as an intruder to the papal coronation. This is because the crowning of Charlemagne created the Holy Roman Empire, which aimed to equalize power between the Pope and the Eastern Roman Empire. To the East, this was seen as an act of schism in the empire. Charlemagne refused recognition by the East as the Holy Roman Emperor caused more tension and conflict. Charlemagne retaliated with a charge of heresy against the Byzantine Church because the Greeks were using the Philoloque in the Creed. This dispute involved the words about the Holy Spirit in the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed. Originally, the creed ran, "I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father, who with the Father and the Son together is worshipped and together glorified." This remained the same for the East, however the West inserted an extra phrase of, "and from the Son," so that the creed now reads, "who proceeds from the Father and the Son." The Philoloque Controversy was the first point of doctrine where East and West did not align. The East only began paying attention to the creed in 850. The Orthodox objected because the creed is common to the possession of the whole church, and if any changes are to be made in it, this can only be done by an ecumenical council, in other words, through the approval of all church bodies. This gave rise to the second point of doctrine where East and West no longer aligned. The Greeks in the East recognized the Roman Church as one of the 5 patriarchs of the ecumenical council, and not one ruler that had the ultimate say over the entire church. In 1053, a year before the Great Schism, Greek churches in southern Italy were forced to conform to Latin practices, and if any of them did not, they were forced to close. The Patriarch of Constantinople, Michael Cerularius, retaliated, and in response he ordered the closure of Latin churches in Constantinople. This is because the Latin churches were using unleavened bread in the Eucharist, a prohibited practice in the eyes of the Eastern churches. In 1054, Pope Leo sent Cardinal Humbert to Michael Cerularius in Constantinople. Humbert, on behalf of the Pope, claimed that he refused to recognize Cerularius as the Patriarch of Constantinople and insisted that he should recognize Pope Leo as the head of all churches. Cerularius refused, and Humbert laid a bull of excommunication against Cerularius on the altar of the Church of Holy Wisdom, known as the Hagia Sophia. Excommunication was the action of officially excluding someone from participation in the sacraments and services of the Christian Church. As a result, Cerularius was excommunicated by the Church, officiating the Great Schism of 1054. The schism came gradually as a result of a long, complicated process starting well before the 11th century and not completed until some time after. In summary, the causes of the Great Schism extended beyond the Church's theological differences and included political and economic factors too.